Arthur, but my memories, they still pure.
Making new friends again, I see, Arthur.
Get corner tight.
By the end of the story of Red Dead, we have seen the fates of most of the members of the gang. From seeing many members killed right in front of us, to Dutch accepting his position in the New World,
Our time has passed, John.
to even ending the lives of some of the members ourselves, we are still left with some mystery as to what happened to the rest of the gang.
Where did everyone go? And what did they end up doing with their lives? In this video, we'll be doing our best to answer all of these questions and more.
Without further ado, let's dive deep into the fates of the members of the Van der Linde gang. Charles Smith. Charles Smith is probably one of the most loyal members in the gang, as well as being one of the most morally superior members, as many times in the gang he tries to make the right decisions.
A few examples of this consists at the end of Chapter 2 when you need to find a new camp location. Arthur and Charles find a family whose father/husband had been kidnapped from them.
It's okay. It's okay. You can come out of there. You okay? You don't mean you no harm. Get the hell out of
They
here!
took off Asa.
Who did?
Men last night.
Where? Where did they take him? Ain't no business of ours. I don't even speak their language. You ain't as tough and dense as all that. Come on, Arthur.
Arthur originally didn't want to help them because of the fact they didn't speak his language. Nonetheless, Charles tells him off and persuades Arthur into helping them anyway.
And in the mission where the gang raids Cornwall's factory along with the Indians, Charles says that he doesn't want any of the money that Dutch found, for there is too much blood on it.
So what happens to Charles after Red Dead 2? Well, in the epilogue, we learn that Charles fled the gang to help Rains Falls and the rest of the natives move their tribe to a different location, as well as heading back to New Hanover to bury Arthur and Miss Grimshaw.
You know that Arthur...
Sure. Word got to me up north, so I went back and buried him in Miss Grimshaw.
I had to run. If any of us had been found, we'd have...
Oh, of course. I understand. He's where he would have wanted to be. A pretty hillside, facing the evening sun.
Years later, when Charles and John meet up again to build a ranch together, Charles states in a mission towards the end of the game that he wants to move up to Canada and start a family, as he saw what having a family did to John.
I think I might get out of here. Go north. Canada. Find a woman. Start a family, if I can. I see how that life... Well, I'd like to try it.
After Charles leaves John's and his family for good, it's uncertain what his fate might have been. But from everything we can gather, we think the most likely outcome is Charles keeps his word and moves up north to Canada in the hopes of meeting a woman and starting a family, and finally settling down once and for all.
Sadie Adler. After the gang falls apart in 1899, Sadie helps Abigail and Jack escape, and after this it is assumed that she lived out the next 8 years being a bounty hunter. Sadie reconnects with John in 1907 to help him earn money by bounty hunting, but also to tell him that she has heard talk of Micah being alive.
I found him. I found Micah.
No.
I got a little...
She goes on to help John kill Micah and attends to John and Abigail's wedding.
After this, it's unclear what happens to Sadie, but we can infer that she might have moved to South America and became a bodyguard for gold prospectors due to this interaction she has with John towards the end of the game.
You know, I've been thinking I might get out of here too. Down South America, maybe? It's wild, but less mean, I guess. I'd run protection for a gold mine, or take up with a handsome revolutionary. I don't know. Something. See something else, at least.
It's unsurprising that Sadie Adler would continue her life doing things that involve using a gun, because throughout the story of Red Dead, she has the tendency of being on edge all the time because of the death of her husband, Jake Adler. Simon Pearson.
Unlike the last people we talked about, Mr. Pearson actually has an ending you can see for yourself in the game. Mr. Pearson was the butcher and the cook for the Vanderlyn gang, and prior to this, he actually served in the Navy for some time, where he said he was stranded at sea for 50 days.
In Chapter 6, Pearson eventually leaves the gang, and it's unclear where he went after this until 1907 when exploring Rhodes as John, you can see that Pearson eventually became the owner of the Rhodes General Store.
Finding Pearson in the general store can trigger a wholesome interaction where the two catch up on life.
John Marston? I don't believe it! I thought you were dead!
Pearson, what are you doing here?
Welcome to my store. How can I help you? How the hell are you?
Pretty good. Got some land in Great Plains. Trying to get a small ranch going.
Really? Wow, good for you. Staying out of trouble then?
I wouldn't go that far, but I'm trying.
Woo! What a turnip for the books, huh?
You can also find a framed photograph of the gang on the wall next to Pearson. Mary Beth. Mary Beth is one of the sweetest gang members, although she is also one of the sneakiest. She joined the Vanderlyn gang after being harassed by a man that she was trying to pickpocket.
Someone in the gang stepped in to help her from being attacked, and after this, she joined the gang.
When playing Red Dead 2, you can easily find Mary Beth around the camp reading a book, most of which being romance novels.
After the gang fell apart, Mary Beth ended up leaving a gang alongside Uncle and Pearson.
Years later, when playing as John Marston, you can find Mary Beth at a train station and you'll have this interaction with her.
Mary Beth.
John? John, is it you?
How the hell are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah,
Abigail, is she?
she's well. Jack's growing up.
Sweet boy.
Not anymore. But he's okay. How are you?
I'm well. I write now. Silly romances, but it's fun. Oh, it's such fun.
Do you?
My pen name is Leslie Dupont. It's sort of French, sort of ambiguous. Well, the books are unambiguously awful, but they sell.
Good for you. I'm so proud.
I still think about you all. That was quite a time.
Yeah. Arthur saved my life before he passed. I don't talk about him much, but I think about him.
Me too. And Dutch?
Ran off someplace.
All aboard!
Such a shame.
Last call!
Oh, anyway, John, I better get on my train. It was really lovely seeing you. Oh, here is for you.
Thank you. Take care now.
Bye!
From this interaction, we learned that Mary Beth spent her time writing romance novels under the name Leslie Dupont. She seems to really enjoy this line of work, so it's safe to assume she lived out the rest of her days as an author.
Tilly Jackson. Tilly Jackson is no exception when it comes to having the background of an outlaw. Tilly was kidnapped from her mother at the age of 12 by the infamous Foreman Brothers gang.
Tilly was abused by the gang and ended up running away from the Foreman brothers, but not without killing Anthony Foreman's brother first.
We learn in a mission in Chapter 4 that Tilly Jackson isn't as innocent as we thought. She was kidnapped from camp by the Foreman brothers, and we go in with Miss Grimshaw to help save her, along with having the choice of either sparing or killing Anthony Foreman.
When the Vanderlyn gang fell apart, Tilly broke the news to the gang that Abigail was kidnapped by Pinkertons. Arthur instructs Tilly to go to a location where she is to meet up with Abigail after Arthur saves her from the Pinkertons.
After this, years later as John, we can find Tilly in Saint Denis, where you'll have this interaction with her.
John! John Marston.
Miss Tilly.
That's Mrs. Tilly to you. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you? Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm well. Well and happy, and I miss you and Abigail.
She's well. Jack's well. All is well, I think. I never thanked you for what you did.
Oh, there's the trolley. I still think about all of you all the time. My life, it's different now.
Mine too. But I still see a bunch of Charles and Uncle and Sadie, so not quite so different as Abigail would like.
I married a lawyer. He's a fine man. We live in a house.
Us too.
I'm sorry, I've got to go. I'm late, but can I write to you and Abigail someplace?
Yeah, we're up at Beecher's Hope, over in Great Plains, West Elizabeth.
I'll try. Be well, John Marston.
We learned from this interaction that Tilly became a stay-at-home wife and married a man and is pregnant with her first child, and that she still sees and talks to Mary Beth.
We also learn from Tilly about what might have happened to another character in the gang, and that leads us into our next topic. Karen Jones.
Not much is known about how Karen joined the gang, but we know prior to the story of Red Dead 2, she was involved in a bank robbery with Javier and Arthur where she dressed up as a nun.
We also know that Karen was in an intimate relationship with Sean McGuire, and after Sean's untimely death in Chapter 3, Karen takes to the bottle, but it isn't until Chapter 6 where her alcoholism completely takes over.
It's not known what happens to Karen after Beaver Hollow, but in the conversation Tilly has with John, it is believed that she might have died due to her alcoholism.
Leopold Strauss. Strauss was a debtor and used the men in the Vanderlyn gang as his loan sharks.
Strauss wasn't a huge part of the story of Red Dead, though he plays a huge part in Arthur's sickness. If Strauss was never in the gang, then Arthur would have never gotten sick.
In Chapter 6, you have the option of doing more debt missions from Strauss.
The debts are from people in really bad situations, and this makes Arthur upset and questions the morals of Strauss. Arthur ends up kicking Strauss out of camp and tells him to get a job.
Get up.
What?
Get up!
What is wrong?
Nothing's wrong. Nothing at all.
What are you doing?
Something I should have done a long time ago. Get your bag. Is this it?
I don't understand.
I ain't gonna kill you, though I probably should. You disgust me. And you shame us. If we could be shamed any more than we already are, that should do. Go!
I don't understand you. What are you doing?
Go and get a job!
You know, they say the sick delude themselves. I was your friend.
You and me, we ain't decent. But those folk, they was. Now here, take that. Take that and get lost. I'm leaving.
Years later, when meeting up in Saint Denis with Charles, we learn that Strauss got picked up by Pinkertons and died in custody.
They picked up Strauss, the agents. Made a real mess of him. I heard he died in custody. Never said a word.
Guess some folk is strong in ways you can't see.
Reverend Orville Swanson. Reverend was an alcoholic and a drug user during the story of Red Dead, but towards the end he cleans up his act and has a sense of clarity.
It's not very clear what Reverend does for the gang, but we know that he was a pastor prior to him being in the gang. Reverend ends up leaving the gang in Chapter 6 due to Dutch being unraveled. Years later, when playing as John, there's a newspaper you can get in New Hanover that says Reverend started leading a church in New York, so it is assumed he lived out his days as a pastor.
Josiah Trelawny. Trelawny is one of the most interesting characters in the game. What he does is a mystery, and he leaves the gang and joins back up with the gang multiple times during the story.
In Chapter 6, Trelawny leaves the gang and is never seen again, but during the story of Red Dead, we can find an apartment where we can hear Trelawny spending time with his family.
That was absolutely delicious, my dear. Thank you. Well, I think a toast is in order, don't you? Okay. To the Trelawneys. It's good to be home.
The Trelawneys!
So it's assumed after he left the gang, he returned home to his family and lived out most of his days as an investor and a magician.
Thank you so much for watching this video, boys, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you watch our last video that we made about a documentary about the strange man. Also, we recently made a Discord server, and if you guys join that, you'll get special updates on when we're going to upload videos and stuff like that, and we can just talk to the community, get to know each other. I want to thank everybody for the enormous amount of support. I feel like in the last video I was just talking about how we were close to hitting 3,000 subscribers and we're already at 4,000, so I don't even know what to think anymore, dude. Thank you so much. And as always, I hope you guys have a zonkin' wonkin' day.